Everybody's going to catch that yawn. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Joe and Joe Weather Show on this Tuesday night, the 23rd of March, 2021. It is. It is still the 23rd of March, 2021. I still feel like it's the 22nd of March, 2021 after I described what happened to me yesterday. The Joe and Joe Weather Show brought to you by Wholesale Holiday Lighting by Giannini at 162 Ocean Avenue in Lindenhurst. Plan ahead for the next holiday season. Your complete holiday lighting specialist to meet all your decorating needs. And you can see some of the choices there with some of the Christmas stuff and green for St. Patrick's Day. And of course, there's also Halloween. So give them a call at 631 957 5106. LIHolidaylighting.com is the website. And also brought to you by the folks at Omni True Value Hardware. They're ready for spring. Mulch is out, topsoil's out, and gravel is out. So give them a call if you're a landscaper or if it's just you and your home. 631 756 1125 at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon. You see the the front loaders and the dump trucks all busy away at Omni True Value Hardware, and the website is omnitruevalue.com. So
yes,
my body is still, by the way, going at 80 miles an hour. When you drive 80 miles an hour for 16 hours, and you get out of the car. Your body keeps moving. Actually takes you a couple of hours for that feeling to go away. It's not fun.
You know, a lot of people would stop at Rocky Mount, North Carolina for the night and get a few hours sleep, Joe.
No, but Rocky Mount is too close. I'm not that far from Rocky Mount. Actually, the way I go, because I go west of there, so I would stop probably somewhere in Northern Virginia to finish the first day, maybe half the ride the first day or most of the ride the first day, and then the second half would be short. But driving up yesterday, I was actually making some rather good time. I left at 9:30 in the morning, so I thought I might get to. I stopped at my mom's house, so I was supposed to get there at 10:30. Well, there were two full shutdowns on I-81. The first one in Northern Virginia. So, of course, Waze tells you to get off, and it's no secret because everybody's using it. So everybody gets off. Had to get off at exit 195 and drive on the Lee Lee Highway, which is 11. It kind of runs parallel to 81. So,
right.
Of course, now everybody's on there, including all the Mack trucks, and it sort of goes from 2 lanes until you go to these really tiny towns, and then it goes to 1 lane, and then it goes back out to 2 lanes. So, had to circumvent 10 miles, and while we're doing this, you can sort of see 81 in the foreground, and I'm watching cars just going by one after another, like there's no wreck. So I don't know whether they cleared it up or whatever the problem was. So that cost me about an hour and 15 minutes. And then I get into Pennsylvania last night, and just north of Harrisburg, and 2 things happen. Everything comes to a complete standstill because they're doing construction. And I don't know any of you out there that have Android phones. I have an Android phone. I don't have an iPhone. Well, apparently there was a Google problem last night that caused apps to crash. So I lost Waze and a couple of other things I was using. Now I could figure I did just get to Route 78 and I was fine. The final thing was, Joe, and you'll know what I'm talking about with this. And anybody who lives in the state of New Jersey knows what I'm about to say. So you know how you get when you drive across the George Washington Bridge and you go into New Jersey, and
you get a plethora of different signs,
right,
pointing every which way.
Yeah, and it's like and a bingo card filled with route numbers. Okay,
Right.
well, now it's the same way on Route 6 coming if you take 78 west to get to the turnpike. Okay, except they added years ago it was just the 3 lanes of 78. Well, they added an express 2 lanes. So half of it's express and half of it's local. So you're seeing signs. So you're seeing again a plethora of signs with bingo cards of route numbers and arrows pointing all sorts of different directions, and then you got the road like quadruple forks. So you have to pick which one you want, and it's mind-boggling. But there was one thing last night that happened that I occasionally get these moments where I just kind of say, there is something happens and you say, there is a God. All right. Well, I'm on 78. I'm about 8 miles from the turnpike. And I get past, when a car speeds by you and you feel the whoosh. I'm not exaggerating when I tell you that this car was doing had to be doing at least 110. I wouldn't even say 100. At least 110, because I was doing between 75 and 80. So he goes by, cuts me off, keeps on going. At which point, Waze comes on and says, in 7.9 miles, take the express lane of Route 78 on the left. Well, this moron apparently, because there's a divider. Well, as I approached, his car had 360'd apparently, and was facing in the opposite direction toward the front of the car pointed toward me, but he wasn't driving it. He was just outside the car with a couple of other people, and they were just sort of walking around all
In a daze.
In a daze, yeah.
Yeah.
So I just kind of, I don't want to see anybody get hurt, but you know what? You're doing 110 on a highway like that. And well, that's one of those moments where I said, there is a God. And then I just kept on going. So that was my driving experience yesterday.
Now, Brandon Dorothy asks a very interesting question. So how did JJ do when you came back? Did you have to stop for any doggy business?
Yeah, you know what? He loves car rides, and I stop every 3 hours to fill my gas tank. I'm not one of these people that drives the car down to empty. Once it starts to get under a half, I stop. I go to get a coffee, go to the bathroom. That's, and I top my gas off. He was fine. Every time I stopped, I took him out, walked him around. He did what he had to do. He got water at every stop. He got fed. It was a long ride for him, but he's fine. He's been attached to me at the hip all day, and we've been having fun playing. So he did really well with this.
So is he the kind of dog that likes to stick his head out the window and go? Or is he just like to?
No, he sticks his head out the window. As a matter of fact, I have to be really careful because I have to lock my electric windows because he knows how to open them. No, I'm serious. Because of where he puts his paw, and he puts his paw down right on the little button, and all of a sudden the whole back window's all the way down, and I'm thinking he's going to jump. He's going to jump out the window. He's going to see a squirrel on the side of the road and jump out the window.
And that's it.
But yeah, he did really well. I don't have a hybrid vehicle. Somebody just asked me. Bill Rogers said, "Do I have a hybrid vehicle?" No, I do not. I have a Nissan Frontier 2019 truck, which I just got a year ago, after driving my little Toyota to 300,000 miles. So for the first time since 1997, I actually bought myself an almost new car, a new truck. So yeah, it's not a hybrid. It does, you know what? It's gas. I don't drive very much, so on these trips, it's I make 4 gasoline stops, and each one costs me about $20. So I spend about, let's say, rounded off, I spend about $100 worth of gas to drive from Georgia to here.
And my brother-in-law wants to know, what type of dog do you have? What is
Oh,
he?
he's half Aussie Shepherd, and I'm not quite sure what the other half is. Um, some people have said he might be half Border Collie, but his spotting almost looks like a Dalmatian spotting. So I don't know. I'll have to ask. The vet wasn't able to tell me, and the shelter I got him wasn't able to tell me either. But he's asleep right now. Like, he's asleep through the show, which is typical. He's it's a sign if he's asleep during the show.
Today is National Puppy Day, by the way. So to all of you who have dogs,
Joe,
happy Puppy Day.
Joe.
Yes.
I mean, I know I hesitate to bring this up, but it might be time. What do you think?
You just cut out. What did you say?
It might be time.
Oh, it might be time for me to get a puppy.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm still not.
You're not there yet.
I'm not there yet.
Yeah, I know. It took me a few years, but
Yeah.
but it's great having a dog again. I'm having so much fun with them. I really am. So when you decide it's time, I love that I went to a shelter and was able to get a dog just to give him a home. I honestly believe the dog knows that he's wanted, and he's been terrific. Yes, exactly. David Schwartz hitting Super Chat tonight. Thank you very much, David. David would like us to look at, Joe, the drought conditions in the Colorado River Basin in the west southwest. So you know what? That's your job tonight, Mr. Rayo. Why don't you get the drought maps up and we can take a look at what's going on out there. And also Steve Lapointe. Wishing happy birthday to Johnny Quest, who's one of our moderators here. And happy birthday, Johnny. And many happy returns of the day. And Brandon Doherty hitting Super Chat for a nice cup of coffee or two for both of us. Thank you, Brandon. Most appreciated. I could have used it yesterday. I was getting really tired. I left at 9. I didn't get to my mother's till 1:15 a.m. So, but you know what? She had a plate of pasta and meatballs waiting for me.
Well, that's great, and that's where you are right now, is at Mom's.
No, I'm back on Long Island.
You're back on Long Island.
Mm-hmm.
So what you basically you could have made the trek, coming up from the south or southwest or whatever, right on into Long Island. But you actually went a little bit further to the north to go to your mom's house.
It would have added an extra hour and 15 minutes to my trip to come all the way out on, as far out on Long Island as I am. It was just easier. I get off the bridge. They're doing construction on Riverside Drive, so I had to maneuver around that. But yeah, I went up to Henry Hudson to the sawmill to the Hutch, and she's at the Hutch, not too far from the Hutch Cross County interchange there. Actually, more than a few miles, but not that many more. Not that many more miles. It's far easier to go and sleep there, in spite of the fact that she keeps the heat so darn high.
Well, since you are the host, undisable the screen sharing.
Aha.
Yeah.
The frog, see? I'm the frog.
Harry.
Harry. You have the screen sharing, sir. So
thank you.
Share away.
Who wanted to know about the drought?
David Schwartz.
David Schwartz. It is our great pleasure to give you the latest update on the drought situation. This is the drought monitor. It was the drought monitor. There it is. It's a little bit larger scale here. And as you can see on the latest, this is as of March 16th, So this, well, actually should have been updated today. Today's the 23rd, but I guess they just didn't get around to it yet. But you can see that the latest that we have shows that much of the drought, and a lot of it is severe or extreme drought, is out in the southwestern states, portions of Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, Nevada. That region is greatly in need of some significant moisture. Meanwhile, here in the eastern part of the country, as of yet, we are not in any dire straits in terms of dry weather. I think I mentioned on Sunday that we're about 2 inches down from where we should be at this time of the year in terms of precipitation. But if you go to upstate New York, western sections of New York, and especially on up along the Connecticut River Valley, they are starting to get a little bit on the dry side. In fact, they are in the D1 category, moderate drought, right along the Connecticut River Valley in portions of Vermont and New Hampshire. But again, in our immediate vicinity, no problems yet. And we do have a little bit of rainfall to talk about for tomorrow, Joseph.
Yes, we do. And by the way, should mention at least in Colorado in particular, they really don't get a whole lot of rain out there as far as precip type is concerned. So the snow season is very important in order to for a whole host of reasons. And at least from that standpoint, they are doing rather well, and will probably continue to do well in this pattern going forward. But yeah, in places in the Southwest and in California, for example, this La Nina pattern was not very good in bringing them a lot of rain this past wintertime. So they have to see if maybe they can make some of it. If the La Nina is weakening, maybe they could pick up. They've been getting some shots of systems coming in with some rain. But they're going to need a whole lot more to make up the difference. Joe, by the way, Mr. Ruben Fairchild is producing the show again tonight, and he says that we need to get serious. Okay, so I just want to point that out. And Chuck Cardillo hitting super chat tonight. Thank you so much, Chuck. Yeah, nice on Long Island. And by the way, a lot of fog this morning. It burned off very quickly. It was a very shallow but very thick layer of low clouds and fog. You could see it on the satellite this morning when it came inland, and but it burned off pretty fast. And the one thing, by the way, in terms of when you have this marine layer, the one thing that it becomes so obvious is that when you are outside, it even though the sun is out and it's strong, it does feel like a refrigerator, and that's what it felt like here this morning. A very damp refrigerator.
Yeah, yeah. But it turned out to be a lovely afternoon. Now tomorrow, a little bit wet in the afternoon. I think much of the first part of the day should be dry, and then looking at Thursday, Joe, we could see temperatures, way up there in the 60s to around 70 inland. And I speak about that only for inland folks because you folks near the water, as was the case today. I got a report from Larchmont at noontime. It was still 39 degrees in Larchmont, and meantime, most everybody else was already at or above 60. So, being close to that water at this time of the year, really, you pay a price, I guess.
Oh yeah. I don't think it got much above the low 50s where I am. In Sound Beach, just east of Port Jeff. So, yeah. Looking at the satellite loop tonight, there is the obvious big swirl. One of the things I love about looking at satellite loops in the spring is that you really do get these very impressive looking signatures on the satellite loop, and you can see it there. That big rotation that is up now, moving into the northern plains and heading for the western Great Lakes, and there's this giant arm that comes around the lakes, down through Indiana and Ohio, and into the central Gulf states, down to Louisiana, where we've been seeing some severe weather fire up today. The other thing to point out that's kind of interesting is look off the North Carolina coast, and you can actually still see it even when we go to the nighttime infrared after the sun sets. But there is a swirl of clouds here, right in here, and it's a well-defined low-level rotation. The system here, this weak low, is actually going to get picked up by this arm, or it's actually more of an occlusion/cold front that's sweeping eastward. It's not really much of a cold front because the temperatures are actually going to be warmer behind it than ahead of it. But it's going to pick this low up and bring it northward, and that's going to be the catalyst for the showers that you mentioned for tomorrow afternoon into tomorrow night. So this is one of the things I was trying to was talking about back over the weekend on Sunday. The position of the high out to the east with the onshore flow and the fact that there was this little low out there to the south was something that you needed to keep an eye on. And in the springtime, models don't always have a good feel for what happened, how these things play out. There is more energy, by the way, dropping down into the west, and that's going to mean for more activity and more snow in the Rockies, and we'll get to that in a moment. The radar, the U.S. radar loop, showing the rotation producing rain into the lower lakes and precipitation that extends back into parts of South Dakota and Nebraska. And also we're seeing what were some heavier thunderstorms earlier. Right now it looks like most of those storms have weakened. There are some heavy downpours from southern Alabama, actually just northwest of in northwestern Georgia. I keep forgetting now. I'm back on Long Island, so the radar's quiet on the East Coast. But you can see those showers extending down to southeast Louisiana. There were big storms there earlier. They're not. They've weakened quite a bit. And the Storm Prediction Center has a small area of leftover marginal risk now along the southern Louisiana coast to southern Alabama, and another area of marginal risk that continues up in northeast Missouri and southern Iowa. Tomorrow, we're going to see an area of marginal and slight risk building up in the southern plains and also down through Louisiana and Mississippi. But take a look at Thursday into Thursday night. Another big area of severe weather possibly here, Joe. Enhanced risk being indicated in northeast Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, southern Tennessee, eastern Arkansas, pretty much in the same area that got hit very hard last week. You know how I like to say that weather system, particular seasons, you get into a pattern, they tend to rhyme. Well, this is the second severe weather event in almost the same geographic area, and it makes you wonder whether is that going to be the signature for the whole spring, where we're going to see a lot of severe weather across the Gulf states and maybe even into the southeastern part of the U.S.
The question I have is that for day 4, which is the day after what you've just spoke of,
all right, let
for
me
Thursday.
bring it up for day 4.
Day 4 is they don't have anything. Predictability too low, and I'm saying to myself, how is it possible that predictability is too low if you've got all of that splattered across on day 3? Certainly, something out of that should still be lingering for day 4, maybe along the Carolina or Georgia coastline. But they say predictability is too low for day 4. And
I would say the way I've always interpreted this is when they have two things that they use on this long range, from the Storm Prediction Center. Either it says probability too low or predictability too low. So when I think that they see predictability too low, it's kind of like saying, you know what, we think there's going to be a severe weather somewhere, but we're just not exactly sure where. And in terms of trying to figure out a broad area of geography in the longer range period. So I think they're acknowledging that there's going to be some severe weather, but they're just not sure exactly where it's going to be.
The discussion that they have for day 4 says that though a few strong storms cannot be ruled out along the trailing portions of the front from the mid-Atlantic into the Carolinas, confidence in a more robust severe threat is low at this time. So
okay.
That's what they're saying for day 4.
All right.
For Friday.
So
I can assure all of you watching right now, on day 4, there is going to be something in the Carolinas and Georgia.
Oh, I know, absolutely, no question. Yeah. WPC has significant rain in Tennessee, northern Alabama, northern Mississippi, and also in southeast Louisiana and along the Florida Panhandle, the western part of the Florida Panhandle. We, on the other hand, let's say half an inch to an inch, Joe, from Virginia on up into southern New England and some higher amounts in northern New England. Also, some higher amounts in the lower lakes in Ohio Valley. Not too shabby in the areas where you were pointing out with the severe drought in the Southwest. We've got total precip from as little as some places as little as 1/10 of an inch, other places in southwest Colorado and northeast New Mexico on the order of 1 inch of melted liquid or more. And we also have precip going up the Rockies. I'm thinking much of this is going to be snow. And up in the Pacific Northwest, not a whole lot, though, going on in California. And from the standpoint of snow, at least over the next 72 hours, WPC has, I've got this set for the probability of at least 4 inches. And it is rather high. A number of areas in New Mexico and in Colorado, particularly the central part of the state, west of Denver, up and west of 25. Large area of 50% more probability of at least 4. And then that, of course, scales up northwest into Wyoming, Utah, and on up into Idaho and Montana, and also up into Washington and Oregon in the Sierra and in the Cascades. And in the Northeast, it's a dead issue. There's no snow anywhere close, and I think that's pretty much going to be the case, right through our forecast period. I know a few people were mentioning on the board again. You get these occasional runs that show something. It was showing something for this weekend, if you think back to just a few days ago, and that just wasn't going to happen. And indeed, the GFS was showing it anyway. The other models were not. But that certainly is off the table.
It certainly is, and it looks like we may very well fall 1.4 inches short of 40 at Central Park, unless we have some kind of a surprise later in April, or dare I say the beginning of May. But
you're gonna need a Smata-Mot event.
A Smata-Mot event, yeah.
What was the word? What the December? What did they? How did he describe? What was the word that he used to describe the December storm? My 62-year-old brain is forgetting now. What did he say? Not that it was a freak storm, but it kind of implied that it was. I forgot what the word was. If any of you on the chat board remember the exact phrase,
if Samata ever shows up again, we can always ask.
Yeah, true, indeed. By the way, speaking of 62-year-old minds, I've got the upper air. I want to take a look at the upper air for you just to talk, bring up the whole thing about severe weather. But my mother this morning gave me a birthday card. Okay, now my mother's 86, so she gave me a birthday card with a check in it, and she said that. I don't remember giving you a birthday card. So I thought very, very hard, and I said, no, I think you did give me a birthday card because I seem to remember cashing a check. But if you're telling me, so the beauty of being 62 years old and having a poor memory is that if you have an older relative that likes to give you gifts, I got my second birthday gift. She said, okay, we'll keep it anyway.
I know the feeling because here I am. I'm also in my 60s, and just like your mom, my mom is also well into her 80s, and sometimes forgets things.
Yes, exactly.
So
she didn't forget, however, to sign the check, which was a good thing. She also still knows where to put the decimal point, which is unfortunate. She could move it over one spot. I wouldn't exactly.
I'm beginning to think of those episodes that Seinfeld had about his nana sending him checks, and he never cashed the check, and soon he had a pile of checks, and Kramer said, "Go ahead, cash them. Go ahead, come on, you'll make your nana happy."
Yeah, exactly.
and then he got his grandmother into trouble because the checks were like how many months old.
Oh yeah.
Not,
Oh God. All right, so. When we were looking at that low cloud swirl off the North Carolina coast, you will notice, folks, that there's no real feature here in the upper air that reflects that upper low. It is pretty much a nice ridge in the upper atmosphere in the eastern part of the United States. We do have an upper low in Iowa, which kind of explains that beautiful satellite rotation that that we indicated. And the system for tomorrow is really just going to be about the bottom part of the atmosphere moving, getting drawn up northward. There's the up. It's not really reflected at all in the upper air. Now, here's the system for Thursday, and you've got a trough and shortwave right in here. So here's one. Whoops, hang on. Let me get my pen up. So this is the shortwave that is going to be triggering the severe weather as it swings eastward. There's another one that's dropping down into the west. You can see mostly ridging in the eastern part of the United States. That lifts up northeastward to the lower lakes and moves up into over Lake Ontario and upstate New York on Friday as another trough drops down into the west. And then that pushes eastward, and there's your system, I think, for Sunday. And
on Sunday.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it looks like we get into a ridge position for next week for a few days at least before something tries to come through toward the end of next week, and then back to a ridge position for Easter weekend. So I think this now takes us to April 3rd, and it's hard to see how you're going to get any. There's certainly not going to be able to get anything frozen precip-wise out of this anywhere close. But it's kind of shaping up to be a typical start of spring, I guess, in terms of the kind of weather that you can get, and the fact that we're seeing temperatures that are, on the warmish side.
Well, the first half of April, according to the Climate Prediction Center, virtually nationwide will be on the mild side, and in our neck of the woods, the first half of April also looks to be dry. So, dare I say, it looks like a warm and dry start to the month of April, and that's contrary, really. The last several years, April has been a real bummer of a month. It's been either too chilly, too wet, too cool. This go around, though, looks like we're going to be having some nice weather to enjoy for at least. And again, this is not to say that you say the first half of April it's going to be not completely dry. There's going to be an occasional shot of a little moisture, a little shower activity here and there, or maybe an occasional shot of cooler or chillier air moving in. But in the overview of things, in the grand scheme of probabilities, it looks like the first half of April may very well turn out to be relatively mild. And dare I say, maybe, Joe, we might be closing the book on snow, perhaps, for this thing.
I think unless something really freakish happens in terms of the overall pattern, where you get a window for a day or two somewhere along the line, it's hard to see how it's going to happen when you have no blocking and you have weather systems just moving in a parade from west to east, like we see here. By the way, there's your little surface low along the North Carolina coast. Just kind of gets pulled northward. Some showers. GFS actually fires up. And by the way, this is now the parallel GFS today became the operational GFS. So
yes,
we don't have the parallel anymore. It's the real thing. So let's
the perpendicular.
The perpendicular. We get some showers tomorrow. In tomorrow morning in eastern North Carolina, Virginia, and in western PA and Ohio, and you can see rain up into the Great Lakes with some snow in northern Minnesota. That low goes up one low goes to Superior, little surface low in Delaware Bay there, and just passes just south of Long Island with a little patch of what looks like some heavy rain. And we'll see if that's real or not. Then that goes out. And now, of course, here we have the next low on Thursday in near Memphis, and this is going to be the one that triggers off the potential for enhanced risk of severe weather. The low actually deepens. Joe, I thought the gradient here for a while on Friday could get very tight, and I think we could see temperatures from New York City south and west. It would not at all shock me to see temperatures into the 70s before some cooler air comes in Friday night and Saturday, and it's going to be even at the coast, because that looks like a pretty tight gradient that we're talking about here for Friday.
Well, the other thing I was thinking about was thunderstorms. I was saying to myself,
yes.
That's why I was checking day 4. I said, might we possibly see a little convection with all that warm air surging ahead of that front? But again, we don't have anything to work with day 4. Tomorrow, of course, Friday will be our day 3. So
the only thing that happens, if you look at the GFS, because the trough lives so far north and west, the bottom part of that trough kind of weakens. It doesn't really show very much here in terms of shower and storm activity down in the southeastern part of the United States anyway. In fact, it kind of, if you look at this literally, it's got showers, rain that goes by to our north, and just some dying showers in the Appalachians that just completely fall apart. So perhaps because the support is so far north and west that you'll see the convection on Thursday because of where the low is and where the trough is. But by Thursday night and Friday, with the low going up into the western lakes, I don't know. It just doesn't look like there's a whole lot of support here for any kind of severe weather.
Yeah, but I would agree also with the tightening of that gradient that could get a bit windy. Although the windy day, if you ask me, the day that sticks out in my mind for wind probably would be at the start of next week.
All right, so let's take a look at that. And of course, Saturday looks fine. Now here comes the next low, which heads up kind of innocent looking. Comes out of Colorado. You see snow scattered there around in the Rockies. So it moves up towards the Great Lakes. And then it starts to fire up a bit Saturday night and Sunday. Yeah, I mean, here we have what looks like a much more active front from Pittsburgh down into central Alabama. And yeah, I think there's probably going to be some storms with this. And of course, that swings eastward. So we might have a shot with this as it goes by. And then, yeah, the gradient gets pretty tight after that low goes by Sunday evening into Monday morning. It does get fairly tight here.
And it, you people getting excited, you snow lovers. I mean, you do see some patches of blue behind that front for Monday, although I honestly don't think it's going to do much of anything to our area, but maybe upstate they'll have some snow shower and flurry activity in the wake of that on Monday. Well, a cheap thrill.
And by the way, since we go into a ridge position next week after that low pulls out, it looks like Tuesday and Wednesday we could warm up nicely, and then another front goes by here on Thursday. Oh, now I see what everybody was looking at here. Yeah, okay. I really wouldn't. I wouldn't bet the farm on this happening on next Thursday. Just so you know, front goes by, then that goes
Monday.
out. Boy,
Monday, Joe.
Yes.
Monday.
Exactly. By the way, speaking of gradients, look at this gradient here. Now, this is 10 days from now. I mean, those are screaming southwest winds running from the plains all the way up into south central Canada. I mean, that gradient's pretty tight there.
Yeah.
And there's some kind of cold high that comes down. And of course, if this is correct, there's a 516 thickness here on Tuesday, April the 6th. Just when you want it, See,
well,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's it. That's going to be a bit of an auspicious anniversary, April the 6th. That was the date of the blizzard of 1982.
Oh, it was the 6th of April.
Yeah, April 6, 1982. Next year will be the 40th anniversary of that year. My wife loves to bring up the fact that when she was living in New Hyde Park, her next door neighbor had just taken the roof off the house the day before.
Oh, nice.
and she's telling the workman, he says, there's going to be snow tomorrow. And initially they didn't believe her. But then later in the day, when all the forecasts were coming in saying snow, she said it was amusing to watch as they were very rapidly, trying their best to, put some kind of a covering or canvas over the house where the roof was no longer there. And of course, the Central Park that day had 9.6 inches of snow. I remember there was thunder and lightning. But the thing that a lot of people don't talk about was the aftermath, Joe. In the aftermath of that storm, April 7th and 8th, there was some incredibly cold air that maintained that snow for a good number of days thereafter. That was quite an amazing setup for snow so late in the season.
Yeah, and I always say those kind of events are generational events. When it snows at the end of October, beginning of November, when it snows in April, when I say snows, I mean in terms of magnitude, those are generational events. They happen once every 20 or 25 years. and those are the storms that, you know, weather the young weather folk today would be talking about, say, 40 years from now. Well, back in my day, the Joe Rayo of 2060 will be talking about something that might have happened in the 2020s. So
And several days before then, that event here in New York, let's see, it might have been April the 2nd. There was some tremendous severe weather event. Well, maybe not tremendous, but a very intense, very localized severe weather event that swept across Illinois and Indiana. And at the time, I was doing a radio station. I was working for a company, and we did a number of radio stations throughout the Northeast and the Midwest. And one of them was WRIN, Rensselaer, Indiana. And I am. It's like 2:00 in the morning on a Saturday morning, and I'm plotting like level 5s and 6s, and I'm seeing reports coming out of Chicago and Indianapolis of possible tornadic activity. And I actually called the owner of the radio station up at his home at 2:00 in the morning. This was one of those little stations, these little 1,000-watt stations that go off at sunset and come back on at sunrise. And I told him about what was happening and what was about to happen in Rensselaer, Indiana. He jumped in his car. He traveled to the station. Now, there's an FCC regulation where in times of emergency, you can power the station up. Even though you're a daytimer, you can power it up at night in an emergency. And he did just that. And so through the course of the night, we were doing updates on the tornado activity or potential tornado activity that was occurring in Rensselaer, Indiana. He said it was the first time he's ever powered the station up in the middle of the night. And in the aftermath, they had something like, I don't know, like $300,000 or $400,000 of damage done by the tornadic activity or twister activity or funnel clouds or straight line winds or whatever they had. And then right after that, there was a blast of freezing, frigid cold air that swept in. The Cubs, the Cubs and the White Sox were supposed to play later that afternoon at Wrigley Field. They never did because the temperature went from something like 55 in the morning to like 15 degrees by the afternoon with heavy snow. and then that system came through New York, I think on Sunday. Right. The temperature fell down here, and then came that storm that hit us on Tuesday with the blizzard. So it was an amazing several days during that time
frame. I missed it all because I was in Corpus Christi.
You missed that? You missed the 83 megalopolitan storm? You missed so much, Joe.
No, that's just those two, really.
never go back down to the south again, Joe, because you missed so much.
No. I've had my fair share. Roberson Man 95 hitting super chat saying he enjoying this nice spring weather as we are. And yes. By the way, I did bring up. Let me just bring it back up really quick, and then we'll go to Briller Jeopardy. Where was it? I did bring up the European because you were talking about the gradient for Monday. The European's gradient is actually even tighter for Monday morning than the GFS is. It's got a 986 low near Boston and a 1029 high in southern Michigan. That gradient is super tight there, and it looks like the wind would last for much of the day because we're still into a few isobars on Tuesday. And then, of course, it all goes out. We've got another frontal passage on Thursday, and then another high comes in for the end of next week. So we're just we are in spring mode here in terms of the overall pattern. Question.
Bill Rogers, by the way, says, what does Joe Rayo mean when he said power the station? Now, Bill, as I mentioned, the station, WRIN, was...
There's a crank. It goes...
The station was only like 1,000 watts, and was the FCC regulation is stations have to, of such low power, you have to, go off the air at sunset, and you come back on at sunrise the following morning. So in the middle of the night, that station is not on the air. However, in the time of an emergency, you can power the station up. You can go on the air, which is exactly what the owner of the station did. His name was Tom Jurek, and he's one of my Facebook friends, although I haven't seen him post anything on Facebook in like 4 years. But it was a lot of fun. I'm thinking back now. all those years ago, Joe, doing radio, all those radio stations, many of them were minor market. Some of them were major market, like here in New York, WABC. But it was really doing a lot of fun. You really felt you were doing a service to these smaller stations because these small communities relied upon those radio stations to help inform them and help
Right.
keep them up to date. And it was great. It was great to be able to do so many of those stations. In my young, I have the maybe sometime later this week, Joe, I came across some tapes of young Joe Rayo doing the weather during blizzards and severe weather and everything else. And I had to just maybe play a couple of them for my
Sure.
daughter who heard them said, "Dad, you sound like you're today. It sounds like you're talking like one octave lower than you were back then." It's very, very funny. But I call it the best of Joe Rayo from way back when.
Yeah, no, yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. Let me know when you want to do it, and I'll have to make sure that we have some audio on your end,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
so everybody can hear it. All right, let's do a little Briller Jeopardy, shall we? On this Tuesday,
yes,
and it's a mixed bag category. So the first question is Mount Kosciuszko or Kosciuszko,
yes.
Kosciuszko, is the highest mountain on what continent?
Well, is that the same as the bridge?
I think that the spell. I think it. Well, he's building bridges now. He's got mountaintops named after him. Who is this Kosciuszko anyway? Um,
I would say, well, I'll say Europe.
Now, you know what? I would have thought the same thing. By the way, there's the Kosciuszko Bridge connecting Brooklyn and Queens. There's also a Kosciuszko Bridge if you take the Northway up
Right,
north of Albany on your way to
right.
on your way to the Saratoga betting window.
I've
Um,
been there many times.
yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So no, it's Australia.
Australia.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I got to find out what this Kosciuszko person, what he did. Uh, question
The
two.
funniest thing I ever heard. I used to listen to ham radio, 2 meter ham. I don't know how many of you are ham operators. If you have, for example, you can hear the 2 meter band. It's almost like CB. And one time there was an accident on the Kosciuszko Bridge, and so the guy who was a ham radio operator. This is before the age of cell phones. So he tries to communicate. He tries making a phone call on his ham radio, calling, I guess, 911 or whatever. Explains to the operator that there's a huge traffic accident on the Kosciuszko Bridge. And the woman comes back and says, "Wait a minute, hold on, I'm taking notes." He said, "How do you spell Kosciuszko?"
Well, yeah, exactly. I'm just looking here. Tadeusz, Tadeussz, Kosciuszko or Kosciuszko, Andres Tadeusz Bonaventura Kosciuszko, or in other words, if you want to translate it in English, it's Andrew Thaddeus Bonaventure Kosciuszko, was a Polish, I knew he was Polish, a Polish-Lithuanian military engineer, statesman, and military leader who became a national hero in Poland, Lithuania, Belarus, and in the United States. He fought in the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth struggle against Russia and Prussia, and on the U.S. side in the American Revolutionary War, and he was also Supreme Commander of the Polish National Armed Forces and led the 1794 Kosciuszko Uprising. No wonder he's got a couple of bridges after. He was
Yeah.
a very close friend to Thomas Jefferson, apparently. So
Oh, okay.
that was very interesting. With all the times I've crossed that bridge, it never even occurred to me to kind of look up who he was. So now we know. Question 3. I'm sorry, question 2. What is the only state that has the same name as a nation?
As a nation?
Yes.
As a nation.
Mm-hmm.
See, the Rolodex in my head is. I'm thinking. I haven't the foggiest. Well,
Oh,
the
yes, you
closest
do.
one. The closest one would be New Mexico. Right?
No, the same name. The new makes it different. The
Right.
word new makes
Right.
it. I'll give you a hint. I've been there.
You've been there?
Mm-hmm.
The state
Yes.
or the nation?
The state, not the nation. But the state has
Okay.
the same name as the nation.
Louisiana?
No. What?
Texas?
I'll give you a more obvious hint. I just came from there.
Georgia?
Georgia. Yes.
Yeah, Russia.
Right.
That's
Exactly.
right.
Question
Right.
3, and this is the final question tonight. What 2 states share the longest border?
I guess it would have to be share the longest. They share the longest border.
Mm-hmm.
Would it be Texas and Oklahoma?
It would be. It would very well be. Yes.
Yes.
All right.
And of course, the famous Panhandle
Yes.
that Gordon Barnes always used to make reference to before a big storm. And we're watching a storm over the Texas-Oklahoma Panhandle.
Oh God. All right. I think we could wrap it up now. The Joe and Joe Weather Show brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware, where they're ready for spring. And they have got everything you need. Lots of mulch, topsoil, and more. 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, 631-756-1125. The website, omnitruevalue.com. Wholesale holiday lighting by Giannini at 162 Ocean Avenue in Lindenhurst. 631-957-5106. Plan ahead for your next holiday season. Your complete holiday lighting specialist. And the website is liholidaylighting.com. So I guess you and I will be back tomorrow. Let me just also, by the way, let me just once again thank David Schwartz, Steve LaPointe, Brandon Doherty, Chuck Cardillo, David Fuller. I miss David Fuller. Johnny Quest, hitting Super Chat. Happy birthday, Johnny Quest, and Roberson Man 95. All Super Chat hitters tonight. Bill Rogers wants to know the difference between Chinooks and Santa Ana.
We do that tomorrow.
Yes, hold your question, Bill. Hold your question. You know what? In all honesty, I am really exhausted from the drive yesterday. So I plan to, as soon as we are done, which is going to be in seconds, I'm going to bed. So
I would not doubt that at all after 16 hours on the roadway.
Thank you. By the way, the word I was looking for, the smatamat word, was fluke. Fluke. Thank you.
Oh.
I just saw it on the board, and I hit my mouse, and the name. Now I can't find it. I just want to say thank you to whoever it was that put the word fluke up there. Okay, I really do appreciate it. Yes, it was a fluke storm. So you're going to need another storm in April to give you your 1.4. It would be a fluke.
Fluky, yes. We'll see.
Yes. All right, everybody. Stay safe. Good night. We'll see you tomorrow.
Nighty-night.